everyone. My name is Heather Lee. I ride this F800 GS. I'm a Canadian, but now I live in Bellingham, Washington. A quick hi to Big Biking Commune members in India. I'm happy to have this opportunity to reach out to you and an Indian audience. I hope to visit India and explore one day soon. From 2015 until 2017, so over a period of 2 years, my boyfriend at the time, now my husband, and I traveled around the world on our motorcycles. So we were both on the GS bikes, and we rode through 40 countries and did over 55,000 miles. I started to ride a motorcycle just before my 40th birthday, actually. I'd never ridden a motorcycle before. I just really wanted to do something cool for my 40th birthday, so I decided to invest in motorcycle classes and obviously also invested in buying a motorcycle. And that's kind of how it all started. I then met my husband-to-be and we decided to do this trip together. Now, a lot of people think that when we say we rode a motorcycle around the world, they think that, well, obviously the girl sat on the back. And that was not the case. I had my own motorcycle. For the first half of the trip, I rode a GS 650. For the second half of the trip, I rode the 800 that you saw at the beginning of this film. There were a lot of challenges to riding such a big bike for me. I'm about 5'5", and I weigh about 135 pounds. So I'm not tiny, but I'm certainly not as, the size for riding such a big bike. Most specifically, my legs are very short. So it is really hard for me to get both feet on the ground, and especially on a big F800 like the one I ride. So really, I can't ever touch both toes to the ground. I have to shift my weight on the seat to put a foot down at stoplights and things like that. Now, this is obviously part of the challenge. The other challenge is that most motorcycles are not built to fit women. So we have a huge disadvantage as women who want to ride off-road bikes in the motorcycle industry or the motorcycle world. Another challenge is, of course, trying to find decent, attractive clothing that's not black or pink. So when we were going on this trip, that was something I spent hours and hours like scouring the internet and going to every motorcycle retail shop. I tried things on, I brought them home, I had to return them. Helmets were particularly difficult for me. I didn't quite fit into a youth helmet. My head was slightly too big and caused a lot of pressure points. But an adult helmet, even the smalls or extra smalls, tended to be too big around my face. So I did eventually find a showy helmet that I absolutely love, and I bought one after the other because it just fits me perfectly. Revit became my riding suit gear of choice, and everything else I kind of just made do with. So I had a motorcycle before Dave, who's my husband, and the man I traveled around the world with. And this was something that was empowering to me when we first met, because he didn't have a motorcycle, I did, and he wanted to go out and buy one and get one so that we could travel together, which we did, and we ended up doing this huge adventure together over 2 years. It was not always easy. There was a lot of arguments and fighting and just tears, and my limits were absolutely stretched riding a motorcycle around the world. Just trying to keep such a big bike up at all times and to be alert and aware to like dogs darting across the street and heavy wind and rain and snow. At times we rode in snow. I found that extremely challenging. It was very, very hard on my character. But it was something that I wanted very badly. I very badly wanted to complete my trip around the world, and I sucked it up. I basically decided that the only way to complete such a mission was, to go through the suffering as well. So riding was a challenge for me when I started, and it still is. A lot of the riding that my husband and I enjoy doing are in the mountains, and that means dirt, gravel roads, mud roads, a lot of rock. Trying to bounce my 500-pound plus bike over some of those surfaces when I'm 135 pounds was and is challenging. But every time I did it, I felt amazing. There were definitely times when I had to stop my bike where it was and ask Dave to ride it through a particular difficult section. This always made me feel really self-pitying, but in the end, it's not really worth getting hurt. So I would allow him to ride my bike through these challenging sections, but also I would try to do them myself. And even if I dropped my bike, at least I tried. So for our world travels, for traveling around the world, some of the other challenges I faced as a female was lifting my bike when it did go down, when I did drop it. So oftentimes Dave was ahead, he had the GPS, he was the route planner. Sometimes he would be as much as half a mile ahead of me, and he might not see me drop my bike. Now, I just want to specify that most of the time I dropped my bike, it was on going very slow, and it was on the rougher, more technically difficult roads. And I crashed once on a gravel road going quite fast, and that was terrifying. It was really, really upsetting. I also fell off my bike early on in our trip, just a few weeks after we started, and I broke my wrist. And I had to stop riding for 3 months, so that was 3 months taken out of our trip where I had to go home and rest. And after 3 months I could return and get back on my bike. That was extremely difficult. I was very, very scared to get back on the bike after breaking a bone. I was also very, very scared to get back on my bike after crashing at 55 miles per hour on the gravel road. That was in Russia. But again, the lure of completing traveling around the world on a motorcycle was what propelled me to go forward and to persevere through all the challenges and the upset and the exhaustion and the body pains and soreness. I never felt like there was much sexism towards me as far as other people looking at me like I should not be riding a motorcycle. In our country, of course, in North America, it's completely common and nobody looks twice except to maybe just say that it's cool, or they might not commonly see a female on a big bike like mine. But otherwise, women riding motorcycles in North America is very common. In other parts of the world, parts of Africa that we went through, and even parts of Russia, I was concerned about there being some confrontation towards me riding a motorcycle alone, not so much alone, but by myself. There was one time when I entered Mongolia at the border when a man seemed to pick a fight with me. He shoved me, and when I glared at him and talked back to him, he got even more and more angry. I think he could not get behind the fact that I was a female kind of taking the reins on my motorcycle. He was really upset and even followed me outside and continued yelling at me and then spat at me. And I just rode off because he was on foot and I was on a motorcycle, so I could get away. But otherwise, it was a fantastic experience to ride a motorcycle around the world. It's just always a fantastic experience to ride a motorcycle. The reactions from other people are something I just cherish, especially I remember a time in Peru where a truck was full of ladies in the back. They were all standing and they were all hot in the sun, and they all looked weary and tired and just angry. And when I rode past them, I was concerned about how my freedom might look to them, and they all broke into smiles and cheered and clapped and gave me a thumbs up, and that was just absolutely made my day, and I hope it made their day as well. I also have, I remember a lot of fond memories of people slowing down their cars to get beside me to take photos of me on my bike, and of course my husband as well, but I do think that it was a bit more of a novelty to be a female riding in some of these countries. So like Kazakhstan and Mongolia and Russia and in Africa and parts of South America. It was just something that people didn't see often. So I loved the fact that I was potentially opening the eyes of other people, and also just doing something I really wanted to do in life. I'm also a very conservative, fearful person. I worry a lot. I worry about everything. I worry about something jumping in front of my motorcycle and me crashing. I worry about hitting something. I worry about something hitting me. So I'm not your typical motorcycle rider who kind of has this carefree attitude and, you know, the stereotype of just, you know, maybe not even wearing a helmet and just riding down the street with the air blowing through your hair. I wanted to be that person, but of course it's completely unsafe. And see, right there you can understand that my conservative nature supersedes how cool I might look on a motorcycle. I would love to have had that freedom and just, you know, no holds bar and just go and ride down that road as fast as you can. But I'm not that person. I'm very conservative. I ride typically fairly slow, at least off-road. If I'm on the highway, I definitely stick with the speed of traffic. But just to tell you all that I'm not a daredevil. I'm not that brave. You know, on our trip there was a lot of tears, and it was very tiring, and sometimes I really questioned what I was doing. In order to do a motorcycle trip around the world, I sold everything I owned. So I sold the house, I sold my business, I sold my car, and I built up the money in my bank account so that I could travel. And it was hard to do. I had to leave a lot of comforts behind, and almost every day I craved some kind of comfort. The trip itself could be extremely uncomfortable at times. But of course, when you get home, you realize that you just want to be back on that trip, just seeing everything you can see and all the people you can meet and the beauty of the world, and you wish to be back on your motorcycle. I'm a freelance writer and a book editor. At this time in my life, I'm thinking that it's a good idea to write a book, and so I've been writing a book about our travels, mine and Dave's travel around the world, and I don't know when it's going to be ready. I wish it was now so I could tell you where to find it, but all I can say is if you'd like to follow me, you'll discover when the book is ready. Our website is called ridingfullcircle.com. And we are on Instagram as well as Riding Full Circle, and on Facebook. Stay safe, everyone, during this COVID pandemic, and follow the rules to stay healthy. Thanks to Big Biking Commune for the opportunity to reach out to an Indian audience. So I hope you're inspired to go out and try a motorcycle trip. Contact me anytime. I am happy to answer your questions. Bye!